To follow along with the written version of this pattern and download the interactive PDFs, use the links on screen now, in the description below, or by going to clubcrochet.com/mochi. Hey there, it's Louie, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to crochet this adorable Sakura Mochi. This amigurumi pattern is inspired by Sakura Mochi, a Japanese treat made of gelatinous rice that's colored pink and filled with a sweet red bean paste. It's often wrapped in this salt pickled leaf from a sakura tree. This pattern is actually not originally designed by myself, but by another amigurumi artist that goes by Sir Pearl Grey. You might actually recognize some of his patterns, like our this adorable Finn the sea turtle. Oh my gosh, so cute. This cute rhino, black rhino, and a cute little Anji the angler fish. We have a bunch of patterns that we've worked on with Sir Pearl Grey, aka Philip, and that you can find linked in the description. In fact, check out the description to find all of his patterns. You can find his website, his social media accounts, everything like that down there. He's a really great guy and obviously an amazing amigurumi artist. And today we're going to be making this adorable Sakura Mochi that he designed. This is part of our new collaborative seasonal crochet kits that makes a bunch of different amigurumi that's all inspired by sweet themed patterns. From our cute little pies, our eclairs, and our chocolate covered strawberries. You can even make a cute little ice cream cone that can be popped out and has a little body. You can find links to all of these patterns and our whole kit at clubcrochet.com/sweet. Okay, a few housekeeping things to go through before we start this pattern. The first is that this video actually is pretty beginner friendly. You should be able to crochet this as a complete beginner. I did a lot of details in the pattern to help you out if you never had made like a single crochet and stuff like that. But if you are having a little bit of extra difficulty, try my Crocheting 101 free tutorial that teaches you how to crochet. You can find that at crocheting101.com. You can also find links in the description to get extra help with our Discord channel and Facebook group. Those are great places where you can ask people for help, show pictures of what you've crocheted, or just hang out with other crocheters. You can also join the live crochet alongs that I do every single week, where you can crochet with me in live, and I can help you out in this pattern or any pattern from the library. To get notified when we do those live crochet alongs, just make sure to like this video down below and subscribe to the channel, and hit the little bell icon so you don't get notified when we come out with new videos. There's also a left and a right-handed version of this video available. Use the link in the description for the opposite version than the one you're currently watching. There are also time codes for this video, so you can quickly jump around, jump straight to round 5 or straight to the Sakura Leaf. All you need to do to use those is use the bar at the bottom of this video, the time codes in the description, or the links in the PDF version of this pattern will also do the same thing. Okay, well, let's talk about all the materials that you're going to need to crochet this pattern. For this pattern, you're going to need the following things. Let's start with the tools. We're going to be using a crochet hook in a size G 4mm. It's my favorite size hook to use with the yarn that we'll be using, which is worsted weight cotton yarn, but we'll get to that in just a second. If you want to use a larger crochet hook, you totally can. In fact, you can use any size crochet hook that works with the yarn that you'll be using. You'll also need a pair of scissors for, cut stuff, and a darning needle to help sew in stitches. Now, I like using this crimped end darning needle. It helps you get in and out of hard to reach stitches, and these are actually available in the shop, as are pretty much every material that you're seeing here in this video. For the yarn, we're going to be using our Club Crochet Amigurumi cotton yarn. This is available in our new seasonal crochet kits that you can find linked in the description below. For this video, we're going to need the colors pink and green. You'll also need a small amount of black thread. I'm going to be using actually black yarn that is going to be split into thread for this video, so I can show you how to do that. But if you just have some black thread, that'll work as well. You'll also need safety eyes. I'm going to be using 6mm safety eyes in this video. And of course, you'll need a little bit of stuffing, but you really won't need very much. All right, well, that's everything that we need to go through. If you'd like to get one of our seasonal crochet kits, they're really, really cool. They make all the things that you saw in the intro, and they are available in my shop, and a great way to help support this channel. They also include 3 months of Club Crochet membership, which gives you exclusive access to the entire library of tutorials, with which there are over 300, and these kits make a bunch of different patterns from the tutorial or from our library, including the ones that you saw in the beginning. All right, well, without further ado, let's get hooking and start crocheting our mochi. We're going to start with the mochi itself. Okay, so we're going to start by making the mochi body, and we're going to start with our pink yarn. Now, I'm going to start by making a magic loop. If you've never made the magic loop before, I do have a video tutorial up here that'll go through a little bit more detail, but this is my favorite way to make the magic loop. You want to have the yarn facing downwards towards the ground and pinch it together with your middle and thumb finger. You then want to place this tail in between your ring and pinky finger, and then go around your index and middle finger 2 times. We're aiming to create an X on the front towards you and 2 parallel lines on the back away from you. Use your working yarn and place it in between your ring and pinky finger and close your hand in like so to keep everything held in place. Now we'll take our crochet hook and have the back of your hand facing you, and we're going to take our crochet hook and go under our first bar and hook onto the second. Pull this second bar under the first and loop it around like so to create a loop at the end of your crochet hook. Then we're going to go over this first bar and hook onto the second one by guiding the yarn over our crochet hook using your index finger. Take that and pull it through the loop by twisting to line up the hole and scooping to make sure you get under all the stitches there without any of them being pulled through by accident. Once you have that pulled through, that's going to be a chain, and we can pull it off of our fingers now, and now we have a magic loop to start working into. I'm going to pull this tail end just a little bit tighter so it's a little bit closer in, and we're going to make our first round of stitches into the center of this magic loop. For round 1, we just want to do 6 single crochets into the center of our magic loop. For a single crochet, it's actually pretty easy. All you need to do is take your crochet hook and go into the center of the stitch. In this case, the magic loop is going to count as our stitch, and we're going to yarn over with the end attached to the ball and pull it under that stitch. Now going over the stitch, we'll yarn over again and pull through the 2 loops on the hook like so to create a single crochet. And that's what a single crochet will look like. This pattern is primarily made with single crochets, but we're going to be using a few different stitches when we get to the leaf. But this is going to be one of the most important stitches you'll ever learn, actually. We want to do 6 of those single crochets into this magic loop. So that's going to be 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and that'll be the end of round 1. Now before we continue on to round 2, I'm going to grab a little bit of extra yarn in a different color. I'll just use this yellow for simplicity, and you only need a very small amount, like maybe about this much. We'll be using this as our stitch marker as we go through our piece. That way we can keep track of where the ends of the rounds begin and end. We're going to take this tail end and place it right in the center of our magic loop before pulling it tight. And then we'll pull this tail end to close that magic loop up and fully finish up round 1. There we go. Pull it a little tighter there. Now I'm going to take this tail end and fold it over like this, and this will help us keep track of the ends of the rounds. We're just going to completely ignore this tail end, or this yellow yarn, as we go through our project, and it'll just help us keep track of where we start. Okay. All right, for round 2, we're just going to increase into each stitch around. That just means doing 2 single crochets into all the stitches that you made in our last round. Our very first stitch is going to be right here. This pattern is going to be worked in the round in a spiral, so you never have to turn around. So we're going to go into the very first stitch that you made in your first round, which is going to be right here. You want to make sure you're under both of those loops simultaneously. This loop closest to us is the front loop, and this loop furthest away from us is the back loop. But for this pattern, you're going to be working into both loops for the majority of stitches. Okay, the easiest way to get under that both loops is to take your crochet hook and then place it under where your stitch would be, and then kind of wiggle your crochet hook into that stitch. The first stitch that you work into is always going to be the hardest one to work with, at least in my experience. All right, so for round 2, we're going to just do an increase into each stitch around. I usually like to take my tail end here and place it over my stitch, and then yarn over with the end attached to my ball, and then pull it through the stitch with a twist and a scoop to really make sure I'm getting through all the stitch. Once you get through that stitch, we can yarn over again and pull through 2 for our very first single crochet of round 2. We're going to do another single crochet into the exact same stitch you just worked into. If you want to follow this V right here, you can get a kind of exactly where that same stitch is, because this round we're doing an increase in each stitch, which just means 2 single crochets into the same stitch. There you go. That's going to be our first increase of 6. We want to do 6 increases total. So let's do our second increase, which will start right here. And don't forget, you want to work around your tail end as you work this round. We'll do 1 single crochet into that stitch, and then to the exact same stitch you just worked into, we'll do a second single crochet. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. You want to get up to 12 stitches around. So we're just going to keep doing these increases all the way around. Okay, there's 1 and 2. And here's a few more. 1 and 2 in the same stitch. And this should bring your stitch count up from 6 to 12 stitches around. So you should have 12 stitches by the end of round 2, which will be right here. All right, we're going to pull our stitch marker here up and cut our tail end nice and short because we won't really need this tail end at all for the rest of our piece. We'll throw that off to the side. Okay, pull our stitch marker up, and we'll continue on now to round 3. Round 3 is going to be another round of increasing up. This time we're going to do a single crochet into our first stitch and then an increase into our second stitch. We'll then repeat that process 6 times total. This is going to bring your stitch count up from 12 stitches, which is our current stitch count, up to 18 stitches around. So we're going to go into our very first stitch right here and just do a simple single crochet into that first one, and then an increase into the stitch after right here, which means 2 in the same stitch. So there's 1 and 2 like that. So 1 single crochet in the first, 1 increase in the next, repeated 6 times around. Let's do our second repeat. 1 single crochet in the first, and then 1 increase stitch or 2 single crochets into the next. And like I said, this should bring your stitch count up from 12 up to 18 stitches around. 1 and then 2. 1 and 2. And hey, if you like this video, please like it down below and subscribe to the channel. I do video tutorials like this all the time. Pretty much weekly I come out with a new video tutorial. So if you like that, please like and subscribe, and hit the little bell icon so you don't miss it when we come out with new videos or live crochet alongs where you can crochet along with me live. All right, and that's going to be the end of round 3. I'll pull my stitch marker up here, and we'll continue on now to round 4. For round 4, we're going to be increasing up yet again to 24 stitches. This round, however, we're going to be doing our increases a little bit differently so that the increases are all on 2 sides of the piece, so that it kind of makes it a little bit fatter and more stout. To do that, we're going to start by doing 3 single crochets, and then we'll do 3 increases in a row, each increase consisting of 2 single crochets into the same stitch. After doing those 3 increases, we're going to do 6 more single crochets, and then another 3 increases in a row right here at the end. Then we'll finish this round up by doing 3 more single crochets to get to the end of the round and go up from 18 stitches up to 24 stitches around. So again, that's going to be 3 single crochets, which will be 1, 2, and 3 single crochets, and then 3 increases in a row. Again, an increase just means 2 single crochets in the same stitch. So there's 1 increase, 2 increases, and 3 increases in a row. Now we're going to do 6 more single crochets to get to the next 3 increases. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 single crochets, and then 3 more increases. So this will be our first of 3. There's 1 and 2 in the same stitch. Here's our next increase, 1 and 2 for our second increase. And then our third increase right here will be 1 and 2 for our third increase. Then we'll finish this up by doing a single crochet in our final 3 stitches. So there's 1, 2, and 3 single crochets. And again, you should now be at 24 stitches around. Now we're going to pull our stitch marker up and continue on to round 5. And in fact, rounds 5, 6, 7, and 8, that's going to be 4 rounds in a row. We're just going to do single crochets for each stitch around. So just continue doing a single crochet for each stitch around for 24 stitches around. And hey, again, if you haven't yet, this is a great chance for you to like this video down below and subscribe to the channel. Also, consider checking out Sir Pearl Gray, aka Phillips, YouTube channel and Instagram and Twitter and everywhere. I'm sorry, TikTok, not Twitter. If you want to learn more about where you can find Sir Pearl Gray, you can find links to all of his social media stuff in the description of this video. Okay, well, I'll be back in just a moment as I finish up our 4 rounds of just single crochets all the way around. Okay, and that's going to be the end of round 8 and our 4 rounds of just single crochets into each stitch around. Now we're going to continue on to round 9. We'll pull our stitch marker up, and for round 9, it's going to be 3 single crochets and then 3 invisible decreases, which I'll show you when we get there. Now I'm going to be using invisible decreases, but if you have a decrease that you like more than that, you can use any kind of decrease that you'd like. I have a video tutorial up here that'll go through a few different versions of a decrease that you can use in place of the invisible decrease. That being said, I am going to show you how to do the invisible decrease when we get there. After you do your 3 single crochets and 3 invisible decreases, we'll then do 6 more single crochets to get to the other side. Then after that, we'll do 3 more invisible decreases and finish up by doing 3 single crochets to get to the end of this round. That's going to bring your stitch count down from 24 stitches down to 18 stitches around. Let's go ahead and get that started. We're going to start by just doing 3 single crochets. 1, 2, and 3. After that, we're going to do 3 invisible decreases in a row. For an invisible decrease, if you never made one before, all you need to do is go into the front loops of the next 2 stitches simultaneously. Now, if you look at a stitch, you're going to be normally working under both loops like this. But for these invisible decreases, we only want to work into this front loop closest to you. We want to get into this front loop and this front loop from both of these 2 stitches simultaneously. This is actually easier than it seems to do. All you need to do is take your crochet hook and poke up through the very bottom to make sure you're only under the first front loop, and then twist your crochet hook around to get into position under the next front loop and poke straight up. Once you're under those 2 front loops, we're going to do a single crochet by yarning over and pulling through those front loops. The easiest way to do that is to really twist and scoop to make sure you're under all of those stitches, and then yarn over and pull through 2 to finish up the invisible decrease. We want to do 3 of those in a row. The next stitch is kind of hard to see after your first invisible decrease, but it's going to be the one where you can see both loops from the front like this. So you can't really see the back of that other loop, but you can of these 3 loops here. So we're going to do this next 2 front loops for our second of invisible decreasing. Front loop, and then single crochet into those front loops. Let's do our third one, front loop, and then a single crochet. All right, so that's going to be our 3 invisible decreases. After that, we want to do 6 single crochets to get to our next invisible decrease space. So we're going to go into the next stitch here and do a single crochet. That's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 single crochets. Next, we're going to do 3 more invisible decreases in a row. Again, an invisible decrease will be a front loop. Sometimes I need to use my nail to help guide my hook into the stitch. And then the second front loop like that. And then we're going to do our single crochet after that. That is our first invisible decrease. Like I said, we want 3 of those in a row. So here's our second. 1, 2, and single crochet. And then our third last invisible decrease, front loop, and single crochet. Finally, we're going to do 3 more single crochets to get to the end of this round. There's 1, 2, and 3 single crochets. And that's going to be the end of round 9. Now, before we continue on to round 10, I'm going to pull my loop out here because I want to add the face of our mochi. As you can see, it's kind of got a bit of a like oval shape to it because of the way we've been doing increasing and decreasing in the last few rounds. That means that you want to make sure that your face is on the front of your piece, which is going to be, as you can probably tell, on the opposite side of where the end of the round is. So this is going to be your face here. I like to usually start by adding the mouth and then the eyes. We're going to start by adding the mouth by using black yarn. You actually don't need very much black yarn, and we're going to split this in half. So we're going to cut the yarn short. You can use thread if you have black thread. That will work too. But I don't really have any more, so I'm going to use this yarn instead and split it in half to create black thread. I'm going to find the threads at the top here and grab just 2 of them and split them in half so that I only have half of one of those yarns to use as our thread for our mouth. Once I have that, I'm going to thread that onto our needle, and we're going to create something that I like to call like a kawaii cat face, which is going to be kind of like this cute little, I don't know, adorable face. I do have a few different tutorials that you can use for different types of faces. I'll link that video up here or in the description or by going to clubcrochet.com/smiles. All right, but this is how to do the very cute kawaii cat face. First, we want to find where we want the corner of the mouth to be. We're going to use stitches in round 6. So that's going to be round 1 will be right here, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 will be in this round here. We want to try to find where the center of this will be. You can use your increases or decreases to help you find your way to where the center would be, but I'm going to say it's going to be around right. I think the center is going to be like right here, so we're going to go a few stitches over from that. Let's go like right, let's see, increases will be there. We'll go 1, 2. You know, I think this is actually a pretty good spot. Yeah, we'll go right here. We're going to pull up through from the inside. You know what? I'm going to go 1 stitch over to the left, actually. So we're going to go right here. We're going to pull up from the inside. And then we're going to go 1 stitch over to the right of that. So it's going to be right here and back on the inside. And then we're going to go up 1 stitch over from that and come out from the other side right here. Just try not to work around your loop there. And then back through the center again. Okay, this is going to create 2 horizontal bars next to each other. Now we want to create kind of the lips to it. So we're making kind of like a W. To do that, we're going to come up through the inside of the stitch closest to the right side of your piece. That's going to be right here in the between this stitch. You can work, if you'd like to, into this stitch right here if you want. That'll make the W more like angled like this. But if you go through the center of this one, it'll make it more angled like that. Actually, let's go through the stitch right underneath where these lines are. See how there's like a stitch right beneath them? Let's come out through there. So we're going to come out through that stitch right here and go around the horizontal bar that's directly above it. So that's going to be right here. We're going to go around the outside, make sure you're under both of those loops, and then go in through the same stitch that you just came out of. Oops. There we go. Pull it tight. And we're going to thread this back onto our needle because we lost it. There we go. All right, once you've pulled through that, you want to pull it tight enough so that it kind of pokes it into a bit of a point. Don't worry too much about the point. We're going to fix these points later on so that they'll be more rounded. But see how there's like a little dot there? We do want to try to get that dot on the inside if we can. So we're just going to kind of pull it a little bit tighter like that. Now we're going to come up through the next stitch over that's underneath the opposite horizontal bar. That'll be right here. And then go around the other horizontal bar. Do the same thing on this side. And then back through the same stitch and pull it on the inside like that. This is going to create a cute little W, very simple. And then the only thing I like to do here is kind of pull these over and kind of like wiggle them in, pulling our tail ends as I do to create more of a rounded shape to our W. This obviously isn't absolutely necessary, but it does make it look more, I don't know, cute. See? So it kind of makes it more of like a cute little rounded face. And then we'll add eyes on either side. I'm going to double knot this on the inside using our 2 tail ends here. And you might want to do your shaping after you've already double knotted together, because once you double knot it, it might mess your shaping back up. And if you want your shaping to kind of like hold its position a little bit more, you can use watered down cornstarch or glue, actually using Elmer glue that's really watered down, and brush it onto the stitch once it's in position, and it'll help it hold down the shape of your W. Now I'm going to kind of shape our W just a bit more here, give it just a little bit more of a rounded look, and that I think is pretty adorable. There we go. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and add eyes onto either side of the Mochi's face. I like to kind of add the eyes, you can add them really close or kind of further away. We're just going to be using 6mm safety eyes like this, and we'll start by just going 1 stitch away from the mouth like that. If you want, you can do it even further away. It's pretty cute both ways, I'm not going to lie. So this will be 2 stitches away from the mouth, which is pretty cute also. But we're just going to go 1 stitch away from the mouth. Let me get another eye. Okay, and we're just going to go 1 stitch over from the other side of the mouth, like this. That is so cute. Now we're just going to use these inside to lock everything into place, like that. There's 1. Oopsies, get that a little bit better. And there's 2, like that. And let's see if we can't like clean this mouth up just a little bit more. Looks like we have a rogue thread that doesn't like to work with us. So sometimes I need to just put a little bit more effort into the shaping, which I guess it's not really that you need to put more effort into the shaping, but it just makes it look a little bit cleaner. And this is a little bit too rounded maybe. It's pretty good. I just want things to match if I can. Okay, that's pretty cute. All right, now what we want to do is get back to our crocheting. So we'll get our crochet hook back into position, and we're going to continue on now to round 10. For round 10, it's actually pretty easy. We're going to pull our stitch marker up, and we're going to do a single crochet into our first stitch and then an invisible decrease into our next. We'll then repeat that process 6 times total to get all the way around our piece and decrease down from 18 stitches, which is our current stitch count, down to 12 stitches. So we're going to go into our next stitch and do 1 single crochet, and then an invisible decrease after that by going into the front loops of the next 2 stitches and doing a single crochet. We'll repeat that 6 times around. So let's do another one. 1 single crochet, 1 invisible decrease, front loop, single crochet. And just keep doing that all the way around. 1 single crochet, 1 invisible decrease, 1 single crochet, 1 invisible decrease. And as it gets smaller here, it's going to be more and more difficult for you to fit your finger into the inside of the piece to hold it together. So sometimes I like to kind of grip it from the outside instead. This is going to be really useful in our next round when the stitches are very closed up. All right, that's going to be our very last invisible decrease. I'm going to pull my loop up. And before I continue on to our final round for the body of our mochi, we're going to pull our loop out and stuff it up just a bit. You don't need to stuff it too much, but a little bit of stuffing would be very useful rather than having an empty mochi. You want it to be filling. So I'm going to go ahead and just stuff a little bit now. I like to say stuff mostly here. You don't want to stuff all the way. You want to leave a little bit left of stuffing for the next round, but you just want a little bit of stuffing now so that it gets onto the inside of your piece. Okay, now we're going to be on our last round. Let's pull our stitch marker up, and we're going to continue on to round 11. For round 11, we're actually only going to do 3 invisible decreases in a row, and then we're going to cut, stopping early, leaving 6 stitches undone. This is a technique that I actually usually don't do, but that Sir Pearl Grey really likes to do on the bottom of his pieces to give it a different shaping on the bottom. So we're going to go into the front loops of the next 2 stitches. There's 1 and 2. Pull through and pull through. So there's 1. Here's our second invisible decrease. There we go. And then 1 more of those invisible decreases. Front loop, and single crochet. Like that. So you can leave the rest of these stitches undone. We can cut the yarn. You want a somewhat long end because we're going to use this to sew it closed. So that'll be about that long, should be good. And just pull it all the way through. We'll then stuff our piece up just a little bit more, however much more you feel you need to. And I'm going to try to make sure that the stuffing goes onto each of these two sides a little bit more so that it makes the mochi even more shaped like that oval-y kind of blobby shape. Maybe a little bit more on the inside. Let's see, we're going to go on this side now. Like this. That's pretty good. Let's do just a tiny, tiny bit more, and then we're going to sew it closed. All right. Okay, and I think that's going to be as stuffed as I like it. You can see how it's got a really blobby kind of look to it. Now what we want to do is we just want to sew it closed. Actually, let's go ahead and pull our stitch marker out now. You can, if you're worried about this pulling your stitches out, just take them out a few stitches at a time. But honestly, you can just pull them almost all the way out like that. They might leave a few little gaps, but all you need to do is just squish your piece and those will get hidden on the inside. All right, now let's thread this onto our needle and sew this closed. To sew our mochi closed, all we need to do is work into the front loops of all the stitches around with our needle. So we're going to go into the next front loop right here. Make sure you're only under the first front loop here and pull it through. And then we're going to go into the next front loop here and pull through. We're just going to keep doing that all the way around. Notice how I hold the yarn down and away from my piece as I go to just make it a little easier for me to get that needle where it needs to go. But simply just going through all these front loops around should do the trick. And then we'll just pull it nice and tight and it'll close everything up. Usually I do this with only 6 stitches, but we have 9 stitches here to work with. So it might be a little bit more difficult, but I like to pinch it right here at the edge and just pull nice and tightly. And notice how it's just closing that up. You want to close it all the way up like that. We're going to go right down through the center and then through pretty much anywhere you want to on the outside. This is just going to be to get it into a place where we can cut it close. So once it's on the outside there, we'll cut nice and close and just squish it to hide that end in. And there we go. We've got a little tiny mochi to work with. Okay, next up we need to make the leaf that this mochi is going to be wrapped in. Okay, for our Sakura leaf, we're going to be using our green yarn here, and you want to start by making a slip knot. For a slip knot, we're going to take our tail end and flip it over our working end, pinch the connection point, and then flip that loop on over the working end again, and then grab the working end from the inside of the loop, pinch the tail end, and pull it through like so to create a slip knot. Basically how this works is with the tail end here, when I pull it, nothing will happen, but when I pull the other end here, it'll close the loop up. We're going to place this onto our crochet hook and pull it somewhat tight. You don't need to choke your crochet hook too much, but just around it like so. Okay, to get started with our Sakura leaf, we're going to start by chaining 21 stitches. Again, for a chain, I think I've done this already. Oh, no, I haven't. You're just going to yarn over and pull it through the loop on the hook, like so. That's going to be a chain. So that's going to be 1. We want to do 21 of those. 2, 3, and I'll just go fast. Okay, and that's going to be 21 chains across to get a pretty long end there. All right, now for round 1, we're going to skip our very first chain and we're going to single crochet into the next 2. In fact, I'm going to be counting off all of the stitches that we're going to be doing as I go across. Every stitch just gets one stitch to work into as you're going across. Just 1 stitch per stitch or 1 chain per stitch that I'll be mentioning here. Okay, let me just go ahead and read them off really quick to get to the end of this round. At the end of this, at the end of the chain here, we're going to turn our piece around and work back up the piece to get to the end here. So the following stitches will be done. We're going to be doing 2 single crochets, 3 half double crochets, 6 double crochets, 5 half double crochets, and finally 4 single crochets to get to the end of this round. We're then going to turn around and do basically the same thing backwards. Going backwards, we're going to do 5 single crochets, 4 half double crochets, 6 double crochets, 3 half double crochets, and 2 single crochets. You'll have 40 stitches by the end of this round. Now I'm going to show you how to do all those stitches as I go through, and I'm going to explain how to turn around at the end of our piece as well. We're going to start by doing skipping our very first chain right here and starting in the second, and we're going to do a single crochet into our next 2 stitches. So there's 1 and 2 single crochets, and then 3 half double crochets. For a half double crochet, we'll yarn over, go into the chain with our crochet hook, yarn over again, and pull that through the chain. Then we're going to yarn over again and pull through all 3 loops on the hook by twisting our crochet hook to line up with the holes and scooping through to make sure you get through all those stitches. Okay, we're doing 3 half double crochets in a row. So there's 1, here's 2, and 3 half double crochets. After those half double crochets, we're going to do 6 double crochets. For a double crochet, we want to yarn over, go into the stitch, yarn over again and pull that through the stitch, then yarn over and pull through just 2 of our 3 loops, 1 and 2. Then yarn over again and pull through our last 2 loops, 1 and 2, like that. We want to do 6 of those double crochets in a row. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 1 last double crochet, 6. Now we're going to do 5 half double crochets after that. Remember, a half double crochet, we yarn over, go into the chain and pull through, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops at the same time. So there's 1. Again, we want 5 of these. 2, 3, let's get a little bit more yarn. There's 4, and 5 half double crochets in a row. Finally, we're going to do 4 single crochets to get to the end of this round. So 1 single crochet into each of those stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, at the end of this chain, we can turn our piece around, and now we're going to work onto the other side of the chains. There's a few different ways you can actually do this. You can either work into the same place that you worked your last stitches. So for example, I would work right into this exact same stitch, or you can work on the opposite side of the chain right here. Honestly, either method works totally well. I'm going to work into the opposite side of the chains instead of working into the stitch, just because I want to. All right, so we're going to work into this chain will be our first one. And we're going to do the following stitches. 5 single crochets, 4 half double crochets, 6 double crochets, 3 half double crochets, and then finally 2 single crochets to get to the end of the round. So we're going to go ahead and get into our very first chain right here. And we want to work around our tail end as we go through these chains, just to make sure that this is hidden on the inside, just for a few stitches. Honestly, you don't need to do a lot. So again, that's going to be 1, we want 5 half double crochets. So there's 1, 2, 3. Oh, we can stop working around the tail end here. 4, and then 1 more will be right here for 5 single crochets. Next, we're going to do 4 half double crochets down. For a half double crochet again, we're going to yarn over, go into the next chain. Again, we're working into the top loop of these chains, and do 1, 2, 3, and oops, there we go, 4 half double crochets. Then we're going to do 5 double crochets in a row. Yarn over into the next chain right here. Again, that's 6 double crochets. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and here will be your last double crochet for 6. You can see how it's starting to create the shape of our leaf now. After those 6 double crochets, we want to do 3 half double crochets. So there's 1, 2, and then one more right here. Oopsies. We want to really make sure we're under all that chain. There we go. 3 double or half double crochets. Finally, we want to do 2 single crochets, one for the last 2 stitches here. So this will be 1, and then one more right here will be 2 single crochets. You can see how our leaf is starting to take shape. Okay, that'll be the end of round 1. For round 2, we're going to work into both loops now as we go around. And we're going to go all the way around our piece with a variety of stitches. It's going to start by doing 3 single crochets, 12 half double crochets, 5 single crochets. At the tip here, we're going to do something called a mini picot, which is just chaining 2 and slip stitching into the first chain that you made. After that, we're going to do 5 more single crochets, then 12 half double crochets, and finishing up by doing 3 single crochets to get to the end. At the end of round 2, you should still have 40 stitches, but 1 mini picot at the end to add a point. So we're going to go into our first stitch here. That's going to be the first stitch that we worked into last round. And we're going to start by doing our 3 single crochets. So that's 1, 2, and here's our 3rd single crochet. So 3 single crochets, and then 12 half double crochets. So let's just do these 12 really quick. There's 1 and 2. And again, we're just working into both loops. You don't have to work only in the front loop or the back loop or anything like that. We're just going to get half double crochets all the way up the side of our leaf. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, halfway there. 8, oops, let's do 8 again. There's 9, 10, oh, there we go, 11, and there's our 12th half double crochet up. Okay, after that 12th half double crochet, we want to do 5 single crochets to get to the tip. So 5 more single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 will be right here. Okay, after that we want to do something called a mini picot to create a point at the end of our leaf. For a mini picot, we're just going to chain 2, 1 and 2, and then slip stitch into the back loop of the first chain that you made. The back loop is going to be right here. You can kind of see the spinal loop right there. We want to go into that back loop. I usually need to use my nail to help guide my hook into there, and then do a slip stitch by yarning over, pulling through, and pulling through the loop on the hook as well. All right, after the mini picot, we're going to work back down to the end of our piece here. We're going to start by doing 5 single crochets back, down. So that'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 single crochets. And then we're going to do 12 half double crochets back down. So I'm just going to go ahead and get these 12 half double crochets really quick. 2, 11, and here is our 12th, oopsies, 12th half double crochet right there. After those 12 half double crochets, you want to do 3 more single crochets. So there's 1, 2, and this will be our last single crochet right here to finish up round 2. Okay, finally we want to make a slip stitch into the next stitch right here. So we're just going to do a quick slip stitch by getting our hook in that stitch, pulling a loop through, and pulling through the loop on the hook, like that. Kind of see how our leaf is taking shape. Now we can cut the yarn. You do want to leave a pretty long end for sewing, so maybe about that long should work. Cut the end like that. And now we can just pull it all the way through to finish off. Okay, now the last thing we want to do is we want to, oh, by the way, your tail end here should be longer than the perimeter of the whole leaf, by the way. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to sew this onto our mochi like that. We just want to sew this onto the mochi. You want it so that the face is still showing. So it's just like so, and maybe having I sometimes like to make the top right there kind of have a little bit of an arc to it to make it very cute. See? So I'm just going to go ahead and sew this onto our piece. You don't have to sew it on too like in-depthly if you don't want to. I like to sew it on pretty well. So to do that, I'm going to start by threading this end onto our needle. Actually, you know what I'm going to do to start is I'm going to take this tail end here and I'm going to thread it onto our needle. This is going to be the original tail end and what we're going to use to double knot to at the end of our sewing process. Then I'm going to place this into position on how I would like to sew this on, which will be about like, maybe like this. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Maybe a little further up. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And I'm just going to find where the stitch that's closest to this one, which looks like right here. I'm going to go in through the side, or in through it and out through the side like this. This is what we're going to double knot to at the end. So don't worry about it. Just let it hang off the side like that, and we're going to use it later on. Then we can thread our original tail end here and just begin the process of sewing this onto the mochi. I'm going to start by doing a hidden end into the last stitch over. To do that, I'm going to go in through the back of the next stitch right here. Like so. And pull it through. Oopsies, I kind of went through the half of that stitch. So let's fix that up here. Let me undo that. Let's try that again. Thread this on a needle. And we're going to go in through the back of the next stitch right here, like so. So I'm under all those stitches there. And then we're going to come back across and into where this loop is coming out. So right like this and into the back of this stitch. And then we're going to start the process of sewing this onto the head, or onto the mochi, I should say. So I like to usually like hold this into position. Like let's go ahead and just hold it just like that in position, finding the stitch that's most close to it, and then coming out through the next stitch over right there. Actually, I'm going to go a couple stitches over, like right here, to line up with this stitch. Kind of see how that's going to work. Actually, let's go this stitch right here. All right, there we go. And I'm going to come out through whatever the adjacent stitch is on our leaf. So that'll be, looks like right here is our adjacent stitch, like that. And then I'm going to go down through the next stitch on our leaf into the adjacent stitch on the body, and then out through. I'm not going to go and do this for every single stitch around. I'm going to skip up a few stitches, like maybe to here, and then continue this process up, because you don't really need to sew it on with every single stitch. You can just do a few stitches at a time. It'll save you a little bit of time and a little bit of effort. Just make sure that the leaf is held down as you're going around it. You hold it down into the position that you want the leaf to be sewn on by the end of your piece. So I kind of like that it's got a little bit of a twist to it, and it's got a little bit of a hanging at the top here. So I'm not going to sew down these top parts. And I'm just going to keep doing this all the way around, and I'll be back in just a moment as I finish sewing on all of our pieces. And I'll show you at the very end, we're going to pull through the same stitch where this tail end is, but I'll show you that when I get there. Okay, so I'm about to sew on my last part here. I'm going to go in through the body and come out through where this other tail end is for double knotting, like this. Okay, you don't need to pull these all too tight. You can let it be pretty loosely sewn on. It shouldn't come apart at all. And then I can just double knot these two ends and then cut close and hide the end in. Just gonna pull tight like that. Double knot again right here, like so. And then I'm gonna cut it nice and close. And then use the end of our scissors here to just stuff that knot back onto the inside here. And then I finally like to just squish it really make sure everything is squishy and cute. Maybe fix our mouth just a little bit after doing so much sewing. Looks pretty good. Kind of squish our little guy, maybe give his little hairdo a cute little twist up. And there we go, an adorable little Sakura Mochi. How cute is that? Thank you so much for crocheting this pattern along with me. I hope you enjoyed making it as much as I did. And I love this little cute thing. Look how cute it is. It's also pretty easy to crochet. I feel like I can make a bunch of these really fast. If you like this video, please like it down below and subscribe to the channel. And make sure to go check out more of Philip, aka Sir Pearl Grey's work. He makes a bunch of an adorable crocheted creations and a bunch of cute patterns just like this. You can find links for all those in the description for Sir Pearl Grey's content. And again, if you want to check out more of our sweets themed patterns, all you need to do is go to clubcrochet.com/sweet to find those. Thanks again for crocheting this with me. I hope you enjoyed it. Pasta la pizza, happy hooking, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.